Hey everyone, and welcome to this $1,400 stimulus check update. Third stimulus package update for today. And even though it's the weekend, we had some news and some interviews that were going on yesterday that are now just hitting the media. Some of which include some information that could be groundbreaking in terms of what is actually going to be included in this third stimulus package and what actually got rejected. But not only that, we're going to talk about what is still in the works. And we're going to be talking about those $1,400 stimulus checks and who is actually going to get them. Is there a reversal of course going on throughout these negotiations? Well, we're going to talk about a couple of those things here. We also have some new details on a timeline in terms of a time frame, when this could be passed, who is going to get money, and when. Hey everyone, my name is Randy. Welcome back to the Late Night Grind, a new YouTube channel. Right now I'm covering these stimulus check updates because it's of great interest to me. So if you guys want to follow along with these videos, I put out these videos on a daily basis, and especially when I get new information. So go ahead, click that subscribe button below. Don't forget to tap that bell notification icon, and what that will do is notify you when I release a new video. And if you want to support this new channel, the best thing that you can do is by smashing that thumbs up button. If you do that, it really helps out with that YouTube algorithm. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, well, let's get into it. So first things first, Joe Biden seems to have changed his mind or backtracked, or at the very least been forced into backtracking on something that the Democrats were very high on, including in this stimulus package. That being the $15 per hour minimum wage rate increase. Now, this wasn't going to be a blanket $15 per hour minimum wage increase across the board. It was most likely going to be a phased-in plan over the next 4 to 5 years. Independent Bernie Sanders was actually the one who brought this into fruition, as he is now working with the Biden administration on these things. So here's what happened. The $15 an hour minimum wage, it was speculated that that technically couldn't actually be passed through this budget reconciliation process because it's more of a process law. It's not necessarily about budget and spending from the government standpoint. Now, there's a couple technicalities that I won't bore you with here. Basically, there was a lot of congressmen who said, no, you can't actually put this through the Reconciliation Act. Bernie Sanders didn't really care. He said, well, yeah, we're going to anyway. So it was actually put to a vote on late Thursday night during the Senate's vote-a-rama, in which they looked at and voted on about 800 different amendments to this budget bill. That was a primary one of them. Now, obviously, all the Republicans voted against it, and I read there was as many as 9 or 10 Democrats had actually voted against it as well. The line of thinking in this was that just now is not the right time. It's a very bad time to put even more undue burden on businesses to increase costs and expenses in a time like this when they're barely hanging on as it is. In fact, they got input from a lot of different business owners who basically said, well, if they're forced into increasing rates of pay, that they might just be forced into closing their doors altogether. In fact, a line of Kroger's in California recently were forced to give a $4 per hour wage increase to their employees, and by doing that, they ultimately had to close 25% of their stores because they simply didn't have the funds to increase everybody's pay. So that's one of the things, especially Republicans push when they see things like wage increases, is that from the business owner's perspective, it doesn't always work. The money is not always there, especially for smaller businesses, hospitality-based businesses that are already operating on razor-thin margins. Now, for some big companies like Amazon's, the Googles, big tech companies, legal firms, a lot of companies like that, sure, that's no problem for them to do the $15 per hour rate increase if they're not already doing it. But here's the thing, most of the time with those bigger businesses, they're already paying a lot more than $15 an hour anyway, so it doesn't really affect the bigger businesses. But I put a poll up in my community tab the other day specifically asking you guys about that. And it basically just said $15 an hour federal minimum wage, for or against. And as it stands right now, I believe there's over 1,500 votes. 72% say for, 26% said against. And obviously, I kind of expected that because this channel is getting a lot of traffic from people who are concerned about these stimulus checks because they're in a position where 2020 was just not good to them, including myself. So I totally get that, and it's been some interesting to see some of the comments and discussion in the comments section of that poll. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't. And don't forget, I actually have several other polls there. You can go ahead, scroll through, and answer those as well. It's been really kind of eye-opening to see some of those answers. Now, one of the other major things that is being discussed right now, and I haven't seen that it has actually had a vote on it yet, is the talks of student loan forgiveness. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has recently stated that he would like as much as $50,000 per student basically wiped away, forgiven, not deferred that they have to pay back later, or not a cheaper interest rate that they have to pay back. Just eliminated altogether. Obviously, we know there's going to be a huge chunk of congressmen that are against that, but that talk's kind of been ramping up in recent weeks. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, Joe Biden's American Rescue Plan, the stimulus package, has said that they would like to defer or eliminate as much as $10,000. Well, now Chuck Schumer said, well, he'd like to eliminate as much as $50,000 of student loan debt. And to me, that just sounds like a crazy, crazy number. So we'll see if any of that actually makes it into this bill. And finally, we have the stimulus checks, the $1,400 stimulus checks. Of course, as we expected, the progressive Democrats have been absolutely hammering Joe Biden on the fact that these $1,400 checks aren't $2,000 checks, because AOC and some of the others have pointed out he said $2,000 stimulus checks, and now it ends up looking like $1,400 stimulus checks. And then, of course, on the other side, you have Republicans that don't want to spend as much, say, well, how about we just offer them $1,000 and maybe $500 per kid and kind of see how that goes? That didn't go over so well either. However, there was a vote that got a 99 vote yes and a 1 vote no, and that was to target these stimulus checks and eliminate the high income earners from getting any of that stimulus money. It was all of the Democrats that voted yes, and even 49 of the 50 Republicans also voted yes. The only one no was Rand Paul from Kentucky, who is against all stimulus checks altogether. And it looks like every update that I read, every interview that I see, the $1,400 per adult dependent, per child dependent is looking like it will be in there. It's virtually a guarantee. So as long as everything does get passed like they are talking about, it will be included. So let's talk about timeframes. Yesterday, Nancy Pelosi was asked if they would be able to get this bill done before the March 14th deadline. And the reason that's a deadline is because there are some expanded unemployment benefits that are going to lapse on the 15th. And that would be a major cliff. There would be literally millions of people that would be cut off from some of that aid that was enacted in the previous stimulus package. Nancy Pelosi said, yeah, absolutely, we should definitely be able to get it done. Now, we've heard that before, long before that March 14th deadline. She went into a little more detail and said, well, February 16th is the deadline to get all the amendments, all the ideas and everything that Congress wants to put in this bill. They will then take a couple of days to write it all up and get it to a vote. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer said that we can expect a vote the week of the 22nd. Now, that's for the House of Representatives, but the Senate would get to vote on it either the same day if it passes, or possibly the next day, and then go on to President Biden's desk. And of course, after that, the stimulus money would go out very quickly, at least the direct payments, the direct checks, the debit cards, things like that. It only took about 3 days from the last stimulus package where checks started going out and direct deposits started going out, like I said, within about 3 days. And within 3 to 4 weeks, approximately 95% of everybody who qualified did get them. But continue to follow along, because what they are continuing to debate and talk about is who would be eligible to get these stimulus checks in terms of how much income you can make. Right now, they're kind of leaning towards the $50,000 cap for individuals, $100,000 cap for couples, and we haven't heard anything about a number of dependents or children dependents. It looks like that is uncapped as well. So if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, follow along, and as I release these new videos, when I see some new information, you'll be kept up to date. So I appreciate you sticking around for this long video, and again, if you want to support this channel, don't forget to smash that thumbs up button. All right, guys, I will see you on the next video.